Picture the kind of person we usually call unbreakable. A soldier. Someone who's walked through hell and come out the other side still standing, scars as proof, medals as evidence, armor between him and the world. That's not the story. The man you're about to meet never held a weapon. He never wore armor because his own body wasn't even his to protect. He was property. Owned the same way you'd own a chair or a horse or a plot of land. They didn't even give him a real name. They called him Epictetus, which in Greek simply means acquired, not born, not chosen. Acquired like something picked up second-hand and carried home. No rank, no possessions, no control over his own body. And somehow this man with less than nothing became one of the greatest teachers of freedom the world has ever known. So here's the question worth sitting with. How does a man with nothing end up teaching the rest of us what it actually means to be free? He was born around 50 AD in a small town called Hierapolis in what's now Turkey. And at some point, no one recorded exactly when because no one thought his life was worth recording. He was taken to Rome and sold. His owner's name was Epictetus. And here's where it gets strange. Epictetus had once been a slave himself. Somehow, he'd climbed all the way up to become secretary to the Emperor Nero, one of the most powerful men in Rome, who used to own nothing at all. You'd think a man like that, who knew exactly what it felt like to have nothing, might treat the people under him differently. He didn't. And maybe that's the part that stings. It's not always the people who have had everything who make life hardest for others. Sometimes it's the ones who clawed their way up and decided the only way to feel powerful now was to make sure someone else still had less. Epictetus grew up watching a man use power the way a starving person uses food, like there'd never be enough of it. There's a story about Epictetus's leg. Historians argue about how much of it is true and how much became legend over the centuries. But the story goes like this. His leg was twisted and it never healed right. Some ancient sources say it happened because his master mistreated him. In one telling, Epictetus simply warned him calmly, without raising his voice, "You're going to break my leg." His master kept going anyway. And when it finally broke, Epictetus reportedly just looked at him and said, "Didn't I tell you that you would?" No anger, no pleading, no shock. Sit with that for a second. Somewhere along the way, this man had figured out something most of us never do, that you can lose your leg, lose your name, lose your freedom, and still keep the one thing no one can touch. How you respond. That's not coldness. That's not denial. It's the discovery that pain and reaction are two completely different things, and only one of them is yours to control. Despite everything, Epictetus found his way into philosophy. His master, for reasons no one fully knows, allowed him to attend lectures by a Stoic teacher named Musonius Rufus. Think about what that actually means. A man with no legal right to his own body, sitting in a room, learning how to master his own mind. While he still belonged to someone else on paper, he was quietly becoming free in the only way that actually mattered. This is the idea that would define the rest of his life. And honestly, it's the idea most of us still haven't figured out. There's a difference between what happens to you and what you do with what happens to you. Your job can be taken. Your health can fail. People can leave or lie or forget you entirely. None of that was ever fully in your hands, but how you meet it, that's always been yours. Even when everything else was stripped away, even when he was legally somebody's property, that 1 square inch of control never left him. This became the center of everything Epictetus taught. He had a name for it, the discipline of what's up to us and what isn't. Here's what's not up to you. Whether you get the promotion, whether the person you love loves you back the same way, whether people talk about you behind your back, whether your body ages or gets sick or fails you, whether the market crashes, whether the group chat leaves you on read, whether the whole world seems to be falling apart on your phone screen every single morning. None of that was ever fully yours to control. Not even for an emperor, not even for you. And here's what is up to you, your judgment about it, your choice of what to do next, your effort, your honesty, Whether you meet the moment with panic or with clarity, most of us spend our entire lives gripping tightly to the wrong half of that list and wondering why our hands hurt. Epictetus, a man who'd had the other half of that list taken from him completely, his body, his name, his freedom, had already figured out which half was worth holding onto. Eventually, Epictetus was freed. We don't know the exact year. What we do know is that he started teaching openly in Rome, until the Emperor Domitian decided philosophers were a threat to his rule, and banished every one of them from the city. So the man who'd already lost his name, his body, and his childhood, now lost his home too. He didn't fight it. He picked up what little he had and moved to a small town on the coast of Greece called Nicopolis. And there, with nothing but a rented room and a handful of students, he built a school that would end up shaping the mind of an emperor who hadn't even been born yet. Notice the pattern. Life kept taking things from this man, over and over. And every single time he responded the same way, not with bitterness, not with why me. He just started again with whatever was left. Maybe that's the real skill. Not avoiding loss. Everyone loses things. The skill is in how quickly you stop mourning what's gone and start building with what remains. Here's a small, almost funny story that tells you everything about how he lived. Epictetus owned an iron lamp, one of the only real possessions he had. One day, someone broke in and stole it. Most of us would replace it with something similar, maybe even nicer, just to prove a point to ourselves. Epictetus did the opposite. He bought a cheap clay lamp instead. And when people asked him why, he said something so simple it's almost embarrassing how much sense it makes. The next thief would find nothing worth taking. Sit with that for a second. This wasn't about being poor. It was a strategy. If you stop needing things, the world loses its grip on you. It can't threaten to take away what you never depended on in the first place. Now think about your own life for a second. How much of your peace is sitting inside things that someone or something could take from you tomorrow? A job, a relationship, a follower count, a version of yourself other people approve of. Epictetus wasn't poor by accident. Eventually, he was poor on purpose. Epictetus never wrote a single book, not one. Everything we know came from a student named Aurelius, who sat in the back of his lectures and wrote down every word. The way you take notes from someone you knew you'd never hear speak again. Those notes became 2 books, the Discourses, and a short handbook called the Enchiridion. And decades after Epictetus died, those pages ended up in the hands of the most powerful man alive, the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. An emperor, reading the collected words of a man who used to be somebody's property. And it changed him. You can see it, page after page, in the private journal Marcus kept for the rest of his life, a journal we now call Meditations. The most powerful man in the world quietly trying to think like a man who once owned nothing at all. So maybe that's the real ending here. He was never a soldier. He never carried a weapon, never wore a rank. But somewhere along the way, Epictetus won the only war that actually matters. The war against needing anything the world could take from you. You don't need his circumstances to learn what he learned. You just need to stop gripping so tightly to the half of life that was never yours to hold.